What's going on, everyone? Welcome into GDT Live, presented by Game Day Tarps Podcast. My name's Dayton Camo. Alongside me, Colton Davies. Today we've got a good one. Evan Rawal is joining us from the Denver Gazzette to talk everything Colorado Avalanche. The offseason in Colorado, the moves they've made, bringing in guys like Brent Burns, letting go of guys like Drouin, stuff like that. But we'll save that for when Evan joins us, Colton. There's a couple things that you threw into the notes this morning that you wanted to talk about, and one of them being the backlash that the cover was getting for NHL 26. You're muted.
I saw that. If you saw all the backlash about it, like, there was just a lot of people that didn't seem to enjoy that Tkachuk is on the cover, and I think that, I think it's the right decision. You know, I heard the conversation this morning on the What Chaos show with DJ Bean and Johnny Lazarus, and they talked about how, like, if you put Gaudreau and the Gaudreau brothers on the cover, what does that really say? Like, is that a money grab from the company? Like, it's just, you know, there's a lot of different factors into it, right? Like, a lot of people want the Gaudreau brothers to be on that cover, but I think that you have to factor in what Meredith would want, what the family would want, right? I think it all kind of entails into it. Like, do you want your family to be on a cover of a video game where you know what I mean? So for the people that are hating on Matthew Tkachuk for getting on the cover, I think it's just outrageous. Like, he's a proven back-to-back Stanley Cup champion, and it was EA's decision to make this the cover because 10 years prior they had Jonathan Toews on the cover with him hoisting the Stanley Cup. So it's just all about recycling what they've done in the past. But I don't know. I think with the cover, and you saw it today too, they've announced the deluxe edition now with Brady and Keith on the cover as well. So it's just like the Hughes brothers one last year. So I think it's cool. But that was my little spiel I just wanted to say about it, because I saw a lot of backlash about it and a lot of people pushing for the Gaudreau brothers to be on the cover, but I just don't think it's right.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the Tkachuk brothers being on it now, especially since the deluxe version was released and the cover for that with the trio of Tkachuks on the front with Matthew, Brady, and Keith, kind of going for the same thing that they did last year with the Hughes brothers, with Quinn, Luke, and Jack all on the cover. I think that might be kind of the way they're gonna going forward. Like, one guy on the main cover, and then with the deluxe edition try and stick like a trio of guys, whether next year it'd be like a trio of goaltenders, a trio of young stars like Bedard, Celebrini, and somebody else like a Demidov. I don't know. It's like stick a trio of people on the deluxe edition and one guy on the main. I don't know. That's kind of what they've been going with. I could see them sticking with that going forward.
Yeah, but for sure.
The gameplay side of things, you told me 5 minutes ago to go check the trailer because I didn't even know it was out yet. I hadn't watched it, but I just watched it. And I will say, doesn't look much different.
No, definitely does not. It looks like the same game that we keep, buying and have since NHL 14. Like, I'm trying to think. I've bought every NHL game since NHL 2003, but I'm trying to think what game was like the last good one, and I think it was 14. Honestly, I think NHL 14 was the last like solid NHL game.
Yeah. There was something that you mentioned though, and as I was watching, I kind of noticed it right before they go into the Be a Pro thing with the Memorial Cup and everything. They did show a little clip of the World Juniors, Team Canada in there. So I don't know if that's a possibility, maybe being able to start your Be a Pro career in the World Juniors or something like that.
Yeah, I think what it is you start your Be a Pro career with like a CHL team, and then you can kind of like play through it, you can like get named to the World Junior team, and then you can, move on. And I think it's a lot like if they did it similar to like college football and what they do with that game, where like their road to glory, where you can start in high school and then you go to college, and then you can play in like the conference finals and the national championship, etc. I think if they follow it something like that, it works out good. And it seems like, with little details that we have, it seems like that is kind of what is happening for Be a Pro this year, which will be really cool. But I don't care about Be a Pro. I play franchise mode and just give me three-way trades. That's all I want. Like, you can't do three-way trades still.
Well, you were talking about the starting in high school stuff, and you brought it up, the NCAA deal the other day, and how that's going to work out because all these kids, like Gavin McKenna, technically won't be in the game, right?
Right.
So unless you have one of those crazy downloaded rosters, but would the NCAA and EA Sports benefit off of making an NCAA hockey game?
Yeah. I think I put a post up on Daily Faceoff on the social media, and the majority of the comments are people just saying like, I would just buy that game, like straight up, if it was a college hockey game, like exactly similar to, the college football game, where if you could start in high school and then go play in the NCAA for Penn State or BU or North Dakota, and just kind of do it like that and then declare for the draft. I think that game alone would sell tons of copies, right? You're already seeing it with the football, and you're going to see it when college basketball 26 comes out as well. So I don't know, college hockey I think is the best thing that they could add to their game or make a new one, right? Cuz like you already have, I think we've done this already, but you've already got all the licensing for all the top schools through your deal with the college football stuff. So you could implement Penn State, you could implement Minnesota, you could implement all these schools, Michigan, etc., and you could have their jerseys. And Gavin McKenna could be in NHL 26 or whatever too, right? I you got to wonder what EA is thinking, because a lot of those prospects aren't going to be in the game, and that's a big, like, I don't know, is that a loss for them?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a loss for them because eventually the Gavin McKenna is going to be in the NHL soon.
Yeah, and
So
people create rosters anyways as well, right? So there's always that option. But no, I think if they just make an NCAA hockey game, I think it would be one of the top sellers.
yeah, that's something I've been kind of wanting for a while because like I like the way I like the style of going back into like your early days, early career, working your whole way
Yep.
through up until like the national championship. But I'm just not a big enough football fan to go drop 80 whatever 90
Yeah,
bucks on a game that I might touch once or twice because I don't really like football. I just
for
not
sure.
my thing. But if they made a
Yeah,
hockey version of that, if they made a hockey version of that, oh my gosh, I wouldn't get off.
exactly. And I think that's like the same for a lot of people. People just wouldn't stop playing it, right? And speaking of NCAA stuff and NCAA commits, Kamloops Blazers forward Nathan Bain announced his commitment to Arizona State University yesterday. So the Chicago Blackhawks 66th overall pick goes he's going to ASU for next year though. So he'll play the 2025-26 WHL season with Kamloops, and then Bame is going to head off to ASU after that. So that was an interesting wrinkle because we had no here for the Blazers, we kind of had no indication that was going to happen. So
What
it's
about the
just
other player that committed yesterday?
well, it wasn't yesterday, but it was a couple days ago. But Roger McQueen going to go to Providence as well. I think that's an awesome fit for him, man. I think that is incredible for him. He leaves a Brandon team that is good, but I think for excuse me, for McQueen, getting to play in Providence and getting to play in the NCAA and play those big time, roles that he's going to have there is huge for his development, and something that I'm excited to see how it plays out for him. Yeah, I think he's one of the players. I said this to Jeff Merrick the other day in a text, that I think one of the players that it's going to, immensely benefit from doing this NCAA development route.
Definitely. I think all these NCAA teams are just getting stronger. And yeah, Roger McQueen, I feel like this is a good fit for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Colton, we do have Evan backstage. You want to bring him on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Evan, how's it going today?
I'm doing good. How you fellas doing?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. Ready to talk some Colorado.
All right, let's do it.
Well, let's start with some of the offseason stuff. Obviously, Jonathan Drouin, Ryan Lindgren, Charlie Coyle are all no longer with the team. How does that kind of now look for the Avalanche moving into 2025, 2026 without those guys?
I think Drouin was kind of expected, just with Landeskog coming back and looking as good as he did. There's no room in the top six for Jonathan Drouin, and we saw in the playoffs he's not really a fit in the bottom six. So with how much you had to pay him, it just kind of made sense, and with their tight cap space situation. So he's out. Lindgren, I think they wanted to keep him. I just don't think they were comfortable giving him the same deal that Seattle did, because the reality is, like, his body's beat up. He's still pretty young, but he's beat up, and he doesn't bring a lot of offense. So $4.5 million is kind of a tough pill to swallow. So I do think they wanted to keep him. It's just they couldn't fit it in. And then with Coyle, that's the interesting one, because they traded him away. They created cap space. The big part of that is that they dumped Miles Wood with him to get rid of that contract. But Charlie Coyle's a good player, a good third line center, and that was kind of the thing that they had going, is that they were set with re-signing Brock Nelson, McKinnon, Nelson, Coyle, Drury down the middle, and you're set. Well, now it's a little different. Jack Drury is now the third line center. He can probably do that for most of the year, but it's just a situation where it's like, okay, well, if you had Coyle here, you'd be set down the middle, and now you're going to maybe have to go get another center at some point anyway. So dumping him, there's some risk to that. Obviously, they need to create some cap space, but we're going to see how that's going to play out, because they really haven't done anything to replace him so far through the offseason.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of wanted to touch on, was what direction do you think McFarland might kind of go here with replacing and just kind of trying to fill those holes?
I think if they have to, they're going to be comfortable with Drury taking that third line spot, at least for the time being. Parker Kelly can play fourth line center if they need it. He's a much better winger, but he showed he can play center. And then they got some young guys like Bardakov and Ivan who could maybe fill in that fourth line center if they need it. But I think it's a position that they're going to look to upgrade at some point down the line. The bottom six, really, just in general, is kind of unfinished right now, because it's Ross Colton, it's Jack Drury, it's Parker Kelly, and then it's a lot of unknowns, because Logan O'Connor had hip surgery again, and he's going to miss at least the first month of the season. So they've got some question marks. Joel Kiviranta is still out there on the free agent market if they want to circle back with him, because it's obvious that he's not getting the deal that he thought he was going to get after having a career year. But Jack Roslovic, I could see, I've heard some people mention him. I don't think he's a perfect fit for what the Avs want to do in that third line spot. But if you get him on a value deal, it could make some sense. So it's going to be interesting. I think they're going to look at the waiver wire and just kind of keep monitoring things, because in the past, McFarland has made moves right before training camp starts. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do it again. But I think a lot of teams are kind of in that spot, because we thought this was going to be a more active offseason, and it really just has not.
You're muted.
Evan, going into the start of last season, obviously a lot of people were really high on Jonathan Drouin and Nathan McKinnon kind of reuniting. And Drouin obviously leaves this offseason. What do you think didn't click there?
For Drouin, I think it was just injuries. Like, his first season here, he was great. It took him a couple months to kind of get used to the way the Avs want to play and what's expected of him. But once he found that rhythm, he was fantastic. And then he got hurt right before the playoffs, which has kind of always been his thing, is that there's the risk of injury with him. So last year, he starts the season healthy, and literally, I think the second period of the opening night, he gets a rib injury that just basically bugged him the entire first half of the year. I think he only played 5 games first half. So it really was just injuries. And then from there, he was producing just fine, but Arturi Lehkonen took that spot on the top line, and you can't, when he's scoring at a 30-goal pace, you're not going to take him away from Nathan McKinnon. So, and then as Landeskog and all those guys came back in the playoffs, and they made the additions of Nelson and Coyle, there just wasn't room for him in the top 6. So I think Drouin's a good player. I think he showed a lot of growth in Colorado, especially on the defensive side. I think he's a lot better than maybe what was coming out of Montreal. He just needed, I think, to get a new start and fresh start somewhere else. So I'm interested to see what happens with him on Long Island, but it's not that he was bad. It's just that he struggled with injuries, and now they just don't have any room for him.
Well, Arturi Lehkonen was someone that came from Montreal, ended up in Colorado, and actually, ever since he's been in Colorado, I think he's kind of started to surge as an NHLer. Right now, he's on the top line, and I want to know from you, how do you think Arturi Lehkonen has fared in Colorado so far?
I think if Jared Bednar could clone a player, it would be Arturi Lehkonen. He'd have maybe 2 lines of that guy because he just loves him, and for good reason. He's a super intelligent hockey player. He does everything right. And on top of that, he's shown that he can hang with Nathan MacKinnon and the likes of skilled players. And that's the type of player that excels with MacKinnon, because MacKinnon likes to do a lot of work on the outside. He likes to move around a lot, and Lehkonen's going to go and do the dirty work, get the puck back for him, and then he's going to go to the net. And that's where he scores a lot of his goals, is within 5 feet of that crease. So he is that could go down as probably one of the better trades they've made in the last 10 years, and they've made some good ones. But to get Lehkonen for Justin Barron, who really has not panned out all that much, and then another draft pick is just a steal, because at the time I think he was 25, 26, and now they've got him for a few more years, and it's just been a perfect fit in Colorado, and he's just a coach's dream.
Definitely.
What do you make of Brent Burns coming in?
That will be fascinating to see, because the Avs have a situation that I think a lot of teams are like, oh, I'd kill to have that, where they have 4 right-handed shots as opposed, and only 2 lefties. So I think it's a good value deal. Like he showed he can still play in Carolina, and the reality is he's not going to be asked to play nearly as much as what he was in Carolina, where he's on the top pair with Jacob Slavin. When you have Cale Makar and Devon Taves, that's not what you're going to be asked to do here. So he's going to have a lesser role. He's going to have less minutes, which is good for him. I think he's going to probably play around 18, 19, 20 minutes. And really, I think he's been brought in for the penalty killing. The Avs penalty kill got demolished in the first round by Dallas. So, and anyone they can put on the penalty kill to take some time off for Makar to where he can maybe focus on other spots, I think is a good thing. But it's going to be fascinating to see how this works, because just with how many right-handed shots they have, and he's a veteran and he's been around, and I think they've got a couple guys where it's like, oh, he's going for the cup, and I think he's the big one now.
What do you make of Josh Manson's extension? And obviously he's going to be sticking around. What has he kind of meant to that blue line?
Well, you can see it in the playoffs. When he's healthy, he's the one guy they have that is going to really make life difficult for the opposing forwards. And I think that's kind of the issue with the Avs, is that on the defense, they're a little soft. Even Burns, who's a big guy, he's not like super physical. So it comes down to Manson. And I was a little surprised that they signed him to his deal at the extension a year early, and there's risk both ways with that, because the one thing with him is he's getting older and he's always struggled to stay healthy. Even last year, I think he only played about half the games, but he just brings something that they don't have. And they got him to sign with a rising cap. They got him to actually take a pay cut, which is, if he had hit the open market, I bet a lot of teams would kill to have a defenseman like that, and they probably would have had to pay a little bit more to get him. So it just made sense. There's some risk there in giving him that deal just before he shows that he can stay healthy another year. But just for the price, I don't think you can say no. And he's going to be that 4-5 defenseman that he's been pretty much since he's been in Colorado.
Evan, with Brent Burns, he used to be a forward way back in the day, power forward Brent Burns. On this second power play unit in Colorado, do you think maybe he could be a net front guy with his size and his experience up front? Or do you think the power forward days of Brent Burns are kind of over?
No, I think those days are over. I'm interested to see if he does play in the power play here. The real truth is that if you're on the second power play unit in Colorado, you're just not touching. You're just barely not even a power play, because MacKinnon and Makar take up most of the ice time. So if he gets second power play unit time, he's probably going to be the trigger man along the wall with Taves up top. And he just won't be used at forward, just because now they've got so many forwards that they're going to have to where they don't even know who's going to be on the top unit. They got obviously McKinnon's going to be there, but then you have Netchus, you've got Nichushkin, you've got Landeskog, Lehkonen. They've got options, so it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But I think Burns is going to be that trigger man on the second unit whenever they rarely hit the ice.
Looking at the 2025 draft, I know Colorado only had 3 picks, but what did you make of the Francesco Del Elche pick?
It's interesting because this is now 2 years in a row where they've done this, where they've taken an older guy with their top pick. They did it last year with Ilya Nabokov, and then again this year. And their draft track, their history is not good. They're just not a great drafting team, and then they struggle to develop players as well. So eventually they're going to need to start hitting on these guys because the team's getting older. But it's interesting because obviously he comes from UMass, where Cale Makar played. I think that's a great spot for defensemen just because Greg Carvel, he's developed a lot of defensemen. He worked in the NHL with guys like Chara, Redden, Volchenkov. So he knows what he's doing. And they're just, they said it after the draft that they're focusing on guys that obviously they had good years and they showed improvement, but that are maybe closer to making an impact in the NHL. So he's 20 already, 1, maybe 2 more years of college, and maybe he's ready to make that jump into pro hockey. So it'll be interesting to see. He was a little small at development camp in July when he got here, which you can expect for a younger defenseman. But I think they really like him just because he plays the game similarly to Devon Toews, where he's not small, but he uses his stick a lot. He's not going to be overly physical with these guys, and he's a really good skater.
Evan, you touched on Ilya Nabokov there, and obviously he's 22, and you got Wedgwood and Blackwood in the crease already. How long do you think it might take for a guy like Ilya Nabokov to see some time in Colorado?
Well, they signed him this summer, and the big question was whether or not he'd come and play in North America, which is not going to happen. I think the Avs and Nabokov are pretty comfortable with his situation over in Russia, where he's the starter. He's playing a lot of minutes. He's seeing a lot of pucks. And one of the big things they said is that he needs to learn English, which they don't want to bring him to North America before he speaks English, so that they don't, he doesn't just get stuck on an island on his own. So he's going to play over in Russia. They already started their training camps, so he's ready to go. And then as soon as the season ends, he's got his visa ready, and he's going to be ready to come over, which could be about April or so. And I bet he'll start in the AHL and play some minutes down there. But Wedgwood's on the last year of his deal. Obviously, Blackwood is going to be starting his 5-year extension that he signed. So he's not in any danger to be going anywhere. But Nabokov is the type of guy that they are super high on. Like, they just love his game. He's not a super big goalie, but he's really quick. And if he has another big year in the KHL, I wouldn't be surprised if they're just like, okay, we're just going to go Blackwood Nabokov next season. And if he struggles over there and they want to give him another year, then they'll probably talk to Wedgwood about an extension. But it's kind of they're in a good spot here where they don't have to hand things over to him right away when he comes to North America.
Yeah, definitely. And if he turns out to be anything like his father, he's going to be a tremendous goalie. So that's a good thing for the Avs.
Looking at another young player, though, Zakhar Bardakov, where does he kind of fit in? Because he's a guy that I've known about him for a few years now, and seems like a guy that, a gritty kind of forward. Can he play that? Can he fill into a bottom 6 role for the Avs this year?
I think he's the guy that, of all the prospects they have, which is not a lot, if we're being honest, he's the one guy who you can probably pencil in to start the year. He's going to get a real long look. McFarland just kind of went out of his way twice this summer to mention his name. And the reality is, when you bring over like a 23, 24-year-old Russian who's established in the KHL, you kind of have to make some guarantees that, hey, you're going to get a look here. We're not bringing you over to play in the AHL because those guys don't want to do that. He had his best season in the KHL offensively, but if he's going to make it in the NHL, he is going to be kind of the gritty fourth line guy who's going to muck things up. So, and that's what he did. He killed a lot of penalties over in Russia. So if he's going to earn a role here, that's what it's going to be. And the Avs are not a super big team, so bringing over a 6'2" center is kind of something that I think will entice the coaching staff in the bottom 6.
What do you make of what is a realistic expectation for Gabe Landeskog this year?
I wrote about that today, and it's fascinating because he blew every expectation I had out of the water in the playoffs. So it's like, I don't know what is realistic at this point, because to do what he did after 3 years away from the game is really remarkable, and to do it in the playoffs is crazy. So, but now it's an 82 game grind where he's already been named to Team Sweden in the Olympics. So it's not like he's going to get that Olympic break like everyone else. So it's going to be a long season. We'll see how the knee holds up, but he was a point per game player before the injury. I don't know if it's realistic to expect him to be that guy again, but if he scores at like a 60, 65 point pace, I think you're in good shape because he's only making $7 million. And if he's a $7 million player putting up 60 points, that's good value because the other things that he's going to bring to the lineup. He was still showing that physicality. And the big thing I think is the defensive presence with him. He's just so trusted defensively. And I think that's something they've really missed over the last few years. And it's not talked about as much as that he was always the guy that, Nate can go do his thing offensively, but Gabe would have his back. He'd be there to support him if he needed help defensively. And he could almost act like the center if he needed to in the defensive zone. So that's what I think they're looking forward to having the most.
How big is it for the dressing room and the guys in the locker room to have their leader back? I know Nate is a big voice in that room, but the guy that wears the C on his chest is now back.
I think it's going to be big because a lot has been put on Nate and also Kale the last few years. To now Gabe's back there, and Gabe, win, lose, whatever, he's going to talk to the media. He's going to take it. He doesn't care. That's just kind of how he always is. So just to have your leader and your captain back is just enormous. Beyond what he does on the ice, just having him in the room is huge because, even from the media perspective, we just see him around everyone, and you can tell that like there's a respect factor there with all these guys. And they love the guy. So, and to see him come back after all this, it only means so much more. So, it's going to be huge to have the C back because as much as Nate is like the leader in the locker room, I don't think he wants that C. I don't think he wants anything to do with that because I don't think he wants to do those responsibilities. So Gabe is here to take that off his plate.
Now, come February, do you think Gabe could be wearing the C for Team Sweden?
He could. I'm actually blown away that he was named immediately. Like they saw 5 games of him in the playoffs. We're like, yep, you're on the team. So it'll be interesting. He has Olympic experience prior. It could be him. Hedman, I think, would be the other guy you kind of look at, but I assume he's going to have a letter, but it's just wild that he's going to come back and play in the Olympics already after what he's gone through.
Let's talk about Nathan MacKinnon for a moment here, because I mean, this dude is just spectacular, and I've watched him forever, going back to his Halifax days, and obviously seeing what he does now is just incredible. And what is it like from a media perspective to be able to, watch him from up above and get a bird's eye view and be able to interact with him? How is he?
It's fascinating. He's a very interesting guy. Like he doesn't love talking to the media. He doesn't want to do it every day, which is fine. I don't need to talk to Nate every day. But then when he does talk, like he always says super funny, interesting things. But it's more just like watching how he works. The Avs PR likes to joke that they're the slowest traveling team in the league because after every game, Nate's got his routine that he's got to do after every game. He's got to ride the bike. He's got to do all these things. So they're not leaving town until like 2 a.m. Like they don't get into these other towns until late. So their travel situation is different than everyone. And then just his work ethic on the ice. They'll play a night in Colorado. He'll play 25 minutes like he always does. And then you'll go to practice the next day. It might be optional. And he's on the ice 20 minutes before everyone else, just doing his own thing and working on his own thing. So his work ethic is off the charts. And the big thing is that he's now been able to stay healthy these last few years to put up these numbers that he has. Because every year it seemed like he always had like a little injury that would knock him off the MVP race and things like that. He's gotten rid of that. I talked to Andy O'Brien, his trainer, a couple months ago, and one thing he mentioned is that he's got his own personal soft tissue guy that he brings to the game who's always working with him. And I think that's helped him stay healthy. But he's just a freak. And he's the type of guy, I think he turns 30 in a month or so, which is crazy to think about. But it doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon because he's just never satisfied.
What about Kale? I mean, getting generational defenseman, right? What is it like to watch him from your standpoint?
Sometimes you almost take it for granted. And I try to tell these Avs fans, like, yeah, you guys are watching two of the best players, not just in the world right now, but when their careers are done, you're going to be saying these are two of the best players of all time. So just don't take that for granted because he does things on the ice that just like, you're like, oh, he just made that forward covering at the point just look ridiculous. Just slow the ice because he just makes one move, his shimmy move at the point, and it's just insane. So he's taken a lot of strides. I think if the Avs had a choice, they would be able to cut back his minutes a little bit where he's not playing 27, 28 minutes a night, and that might open him up a little bit more offensively to kind of rush the puck up. But he's also just a freak. Like he's not a big guy, but he's built super well. And he's taken care of his body really well to where he's stayed a little bit more healthy these last few years. So he's well deserving of these Norris trophies that he's gotten. And he's in elite territory with multiple Norrises before he's even 27 years old. So the sky's just the limit with him. And there's very few players for if I was running a team that I would ever trade this guy for. It might be McDavid, and that's it, just because finding a defenseman that can do literally everything is just borderline impossible.
Evan, something that I wanted to touch on. I'm not from Denver, never been to Denver, so I don't really understand the difference in the altitude. But I've heard visiting teams coming into Colorado all the time, they're bringing extra O2 tanks for the guys that are on the bikes, and they're training at higher altitudes to get ready for this game that's in the mountains. Can you kind of take me through what it's like being in Denver and having that higher altitude and being able to like play a game like a professional athlete?
Yeah, I've lived in Denver pretty much all my life, so it's almost tougher for me to say it because I'm so used to the altitude. But other teams are starting, I'm noticing they're starting to show up. It's more noticeable, especially on like a day where a team has to travel day of and they don't have 24 hours to acclimate themselves to the altitude. And then you really hear about it from those other teams. But when teams get here, it's not as big a deal, but it helps with the conditioning for sure, because I would notice just from my perspective, if I would play in Colorado and then go to a different state, I'm like, oh man, I'm just like limitless here. I feel incredible. So these guys that's why Nathan McKinnon, those guys, Cale Makar, they play more minutes than anyone else. It's almost like because they're better conditioned to play these minutes because of where they're training most of the year. So it is a factor. I don't think it's as big a factor as maybe some people make it out to be, just because, especially in the playoffs, like these teams are here for a week, like they acclimate themselves. But it is a factor, especially on back-to-back, to have to come to altitude and deal with that, because it will kill you. Like if you're playing long shifts and you get stuck out there, it's going to hurt.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you feel it as a media member as much? Or?
I'm so used to it, it doesn't bother me. Like it doesn't make any difference. But I could ask some of the other guys who aren't from Colorado, like, because I think you talk to the new guys, like they don't want to show up for, like, Brent Burns is here already. Like they don't want to show up for training camp like a week before, because then when you got to do the conditioning stuff, it's really going to hit you. They try to show up a month before to get ready and get used to everything. And that's, I think that's something they talk about every year.
What has been one of your favorite moments covering the Avs? You've been around the Avs for a long time, and I mean, gotta be the Stanley Cup most recently, probably. But like, what is one of your personal favorite moments?
I have been covering this team for almost a decade. There's been quite a few. I think the first year they made in the playoffs was pretty special. The game 82, where it was basically them in St. Louis, whoever won got in, and they came out on top, and just the moment where you could see it was kind of the beginning of everything, where Landeskog, McKinnon ran in on a line. Like they were a flawed team, but you could see that they were going to be something really big in the future. But beyond that, still one of the before Landeskog's return and his goal this past playoff, where it was just so loud, that was insane. Cale Makar's first game, where he showed up in the playoffs. I think he had been in Colorado for like a day, and 8 or 9 minutes into his first playoff game, he scores a goal. Like I have never heard this building as loud as it was that night. It was just like, oh boy, you can tell this is special. I remember talking to Nate in the locker room after that game, and it was a little rush, and Makar comes up behind McKinnon, and he said, yeah, I heard someone yelling for the puck. And it's this guy who showed up a day before just yelling for the puck. And I'm like, oh, I just dropped the puck to a rookie who doesn't know what he's doing. And then he scores. He's like, you have to have a lot of confidence to yell from me for the puck in the playoff in your first game. So that was crazy, and that was one of the loudest I've ever heard Ball Arena.
Oh, I love that story. That's awesome. What's one of your favorite Avalanche jerseys?
Jerseys are not my thing because I'm kind of colorblind. I have like no fashion sense whatsoever. But I do kind of like these third jerseys that they have now. The rumor for a while has been that they're bringing back the Nordiques jerseys for next year because it's the 30th anniversary. So if they do that, those are going to sell like hotcakes because people are just killing for those. They had the Nordiques jersey a couple years ago for the Stadium Series, and people were just all about that. So if they bring those back, those are going to be enormous. But the current third jerseys I like, and then they really haven't had some great third jerseys. I think people were really against the piping they had for a long time, and they've kind of gone away from that. But their jersey situation right now is pretty good, and if they bring this Nordiques jersey back, it's going to be special.
Oh yeah, I mean that'll be iconic. I remember the reverse retro one that they did of that one, and that was what a beautiful jersey. Hey Evan, my last question for you: where do you kind of see the Avalanche right now? Are they still in contention for the Stanley Cup, or where are they at the moment?
Yeah, I think they're still in contention for the Cup. Their window, I think, is getting smaller. The team's getting a little older. They kind of touched on it, but like they just have very little prospects that are going to be coming in anytime soon because they've traded so many picks and prospects away to help in the immediate. So I think these next 2 years are going to be huge for them because after that, Brock Nelson's going to be in the final year of his deal. He'll be in his late 30s. You don't know how good he's going to be. And then I think the big thing is Kale's going to be up for a contract after 2 years, and he's going to he could potentially double his salary, which is going to have an impact on the cap. So I think that they're still in a good spot this year. All their issues right now are basically bottom six, which if you're going to have an issue, I think that's where you want to be. They're set in net. They're set in the top six. If they could improve their defense, I think they would love to do that. But it's not a priority right now. And we've seen McFarland's not afraid to make trades. He made $1 million last year to help improve the team. So they're still in a good spot here. But these next 2 years are going to be crucial because that's kind of their window to win right now, unless they acquire some super young talent that can kind of extend that window.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Evan. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Evan. Take care.
Too.
Well, Colton, another great episode. Wednesday. Lots of Avalanche talk, some off-season moves. The Brent Burns one, that's probably the most intriguing move that they made. I know I mentioned it. Yeah, it is the pretty much the only one. I know I mentioned it. Brent Burns, power forward on the power play in front of the net.
Yeah.
That definitely won't happen. Fellas, we will throw it to a commercial break. We'll be right back to wrap up the show after this.
Looking for a new way to quench your thirst? Game Day Tarps is now an official Quench affiliate. Head on over to quench.ca/GameDayTarpsPodcast and use our code GameDayTarpsPodcast, all caps, all one word, for 15% off your total order. Stay cool this summer with the #1 sports drink on the market. Stay quenched.
Is the off-season bumming you out?
Yeah.
Do you wish you had more hockey content to consume?
Yeah.
Well, head on over to patreon.com/GameDayTarps and check out all the exclusive content we have to offer. Behind the scenes videos, in-depth analysis, and so much more. Select a membership tier and enjoy the content made only for you. Only at patreon.com/GameDayTarps.
Was there something that you wanted to bring up before we went to commercial break?
No.
Oh, it sounded like you had something there.
No. I was just gonna say it was a good chat with Evan, and I think Nate McKinnon's due for a big year. He had a big year last year, but I mean, like, maybe 130 points this year.
Who knows? Definitely a good one for Nate. Why don't you let the people know what's going on Thursday?
Keep an eye out on our social media for that. Just keep an eye out on our social media. Possible. It's not 100% confirmed, so I don't want to say anything quite yet. But just keep an eye on our social media. We got a former two-time Stanley Cup champion coming on the show. So you guys will see that. We'll post a little teaser on our Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. And show you guys what's kind of going on there. Next week, Jake O'Brien will join the program, so looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
What are you doing the rest of the day? You got like
Rest
what?
of the day, I got a few.
It's 12:40 over there.
It's 11:40.
Oh, whoops! You have literally the whole day to yourself. What are you gonna do?
I got a few things I gotta tidy up for the Blazers. A couple of things I gotta do for daily face-off, and then tonight at 6, it's Logan Stankoven's doing a meet and greet at
Kia.
at the Kia dealership here. So the Blazers are wanting a bunch of us to go, so I'm gonna go to that as well. Hand out some stuff to the kids and all the fans and whatever, and mingle with Logan. And yeah, that's about my plans.
Nice. I saw
What
that.
about you?
I saw that on John's Twitter this morning. No, not much for me. Just 5:00 when that rolls around. Gotta produce the Dogger Pass podcast. Fellas, keep an eye out on the Fight Network, 7 to 9 Eastern. You'll see the fight or the Dogger Pass podcast on the Fight Network, produced by yours truly. But anyways, Colton, I think that's pretty much it for today.
Yep.
All right, fellas. Well, we thank you for tuning in again. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, right back here on GDT Live. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another video over here on the Game Day Tarps podcast and the Hockey Podcast Network. We've got so much more where this came from, so smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell, turn the notifications on so you never miss a beat. For myself and the rest of the guys over at Game Day Tarps, we thank you, and we'll see you next time.